Hello friends, welcome to my first ever YouTube video. Today I'm going to be teaching you all how to properly stack and fill a cake for decorating. Some of you may know me as Cake Legend from TikTok, but if you're new here, hi, welcome to the party. So today I'm using two 6-inch pans of cake. Each cake is about 2 inches tall, which is going to make each layer about 1 inch thick. As you can see right now, I'm cutting off the top of my first cake so it's nice and level, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut that in half to get 2 layers. And I'm doing this on the cake pan, which I flipped upside down, just because that's what I'm more used to these days. But for beginners, it's best to use a turntable. I used to use a Lazy Susan before I got a proper turntable, and I will show you that in the next clip. However, if you don't have a Lazy Susan or anything similar, you can just do what I'm doing here and cut it on the cake pan, or you could just do it right on the counter, but that's a little more challenging because you can't really spin it. Okay, so here we have the cake on the turntable. You want to put your hand on top and not on the side, because if you put it on the side, it's easier to cut yourself. While holding the knife level, I gently saw into the cake, just kind of to make like a score, which I'm going to go over deeper once I make it all the way around. I'm constantly turning the cake as I'm doing this, and as you can see here, I moved my hand to the bottom because now it's getting harder to hold it on top when that top's going to come off. Just remember to still keep your fingers away from where the knife is going to be poking out. And there we go, we just leveled off the top of our cake. So now we're going to go back and do the same thing on the middle of the layer to cut it in half. I'm just gently sawing my knife in just to kind of make that line that I'm going to go over again. Just small movements, turning the cake at the same time while keeping the knife level. It's a little tricky to get this down on the first try, but using a turntable really helps because you're making even cuts on all sides while slowly working towards the middle. Also, not related, but oh my god, I'm so sorry for my voice right now. I'm just so dehydrated. But anyways, I'm using a piping bag today for my buttercream dam because I have a jelly filling. If you were just using a buttercream filling, this wouldn't be necessary, but it's still good to learn. You want to open up the piping bag and wrap it around your hand just like this, and it makes it so easy to fill it. I've also seen a method where you use a cup. If that works for you, by all means, go right ahead. But this way's also good to learn because it saves you so much time and you don't have to go get a cup. Alright, so here I am filling up the piping bag with my buttercream. I don't think there's any super secret special way to fill a piping bag without getting air bubbles in it because they're just inevitable. When you fill a piping bag, it's always important to not fill it all the way to the top. You want to leave a pretty good space because if you fill it all the way up, it's just going to come spilling out the moment you start squeezing and it's going to be a big mess. Twist the top and hold it closed, and then you can cut off the end and start piping your dam. Some people use a round piping tip for this part, but it's really not necessary. If you want to use it, you can, but it'll work just the same without it. Now, if you don't have a turntable, you're in luck today because I'm going to be doing this tutorial right on the counter. So let's go over the basics of holding a piping bag. I twist it closed and hold it with my thumb and forefinger in my right hand. And then my other 3 fingers just come to rest against the top of the bag, where I squeeze. Usually if the bag is less full, I like to wrap the end of it around my forefinger because it just gives me a better grip, but the bag's too full right now to do that. Then my left hand just rests against the bag like this to guide it. I don't like holding it this way, it just doesn't feel right, so I hold it this way. I do know some people who hold it the other way though, so if that works for you, go ahead. So we can go ahead and squeeze a little bit of buttercream onto the board to stick our first layer of cake down. This just kind of stops the cake from sliding around later when you're icing or crumb coating. Then we're going to go ahead and pipe our dam, just slowly moving around in a circle on the edge. You can pipe 2 or 3 rings depending on how much filling you want between your layers. Just make sure you don't pipe them too close to the edge, otherwise with the weight of the other layers, it's just going to come spilling out. Today I'm filling my cake with this Bavarian cream I found at Save on Foods, and it's basically just a vanilla custard. So I'm simply just scooping my filling onto the cake and then spreading it out with the spoon so it's nice and even. You can also put your filling into a piping bag and just pipe it onto the layer, which saves so much time when you're doing like 12 cakes at once, but either works perfectly fine. Then you want to just gently place on your next cake layer and repeat the steps until your cake is all stacked. If your cake layers are a little uneven, don't stress about it. Just make one side of your dam taller than the other, and then put the thinner side on the taller side and the thicker side on the lower side, if that makes sense, and then it will just even itself out. Also, when you're piping a buttercream dam, it's important to use a thicker buttercream because a softer one's just going to come spilling out once you have the weight of the filling and other cake layers resting on top. And that doesn't mean you have to use a different recipe for the filling versus decorating. I just don't whip my buttercream as long when it's going to be used for filling a cake, whereas when I'm going to be decorating, I whip it for a while. Another thing to keep in mind is when you're filling your cake, you don't want to fill it all the way up to the brim. You want to leave a little bit of that dam at the top because with the weight of the other layers, it's going to kind of squish it down just a little bit. So if you fill it all the way up to the top, it's not going to end well. But then again, that's not always the case. It's usually only for like really soft or liquidy fillings. And now here's the cake all stacked. At this point, you can pop it in the fridge or freezer to chill before decorating. I hope you all enjoyed this tutorial and found it helpful. Bye!